Okay, this is going to be hard to come after. So you'll have to forgive me for doing just an ordinary presentation on some of the stuff that I'm doing. When I saw that the theme for this convening was going to be sustainable organizations, then I thought, you know what, I sort of work in one, or at least in one that attempts to become a sustainable organization. And next thought after that is, can there be such a thing as a sustainable organization? Because you are always part of a bigger picture. I work in the official tourist organization of Copenhagen, the Greater Copenhagen area. And of course, as many of you will know, at least the ones from Copenhagen, Copenhagen has a reputation of being green, like a green rep, and a sustainable destination. And of course, this is something that used to be actually a good selling point for us in terms of attracting tourists and business travelers to the city. But nowadays, it's more like it's expected of Copenhagen. And there's a reason for that, because in Copenhagen, 70% of the venues, the hotels, whatever we have, are actually eco-certified businesses, which means that you will have more or less a sustainable stay, whether you are in for it or not, or you ask for it or not. And this is part of my point, because when you go to Copenhagen, then many of the tourists come because of this. They come because they want to see, you know, the walkable city, the bikeable city, the green that they've heard of, the way that we live. But we also, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are on the outset sustainable themselves. So we want to create a destination that enables them to be sustainable without making a lot of effort to be that. And that means that we invite them in, and we have a strategy in Wonderful Copenhagen, where I work, that focuses on localhood and the urge in tourists nowadays to become locals wherever they go, which means that we want to merge them with the way Copenhageners actually live. And in Copenhagen, 60% of the citizens actually bike all year round to work, so their commute is by bike. And that made us a new challenge, because now tourists want to bike, because this is our strategy, and they can't really, or often can't. And actually, this is something that leads me to what you've probably heard in the news over the last year or so, over tourism. Because you need to not only be sustainable in a green kind of way, you also need to be sustainable in the way that you don't exhaust the locals. And of course, maybe biking can be a small thing in that whole picture, but to Copenhageners, that's an essential thing. Yes, we bike, we don't just bike, we bike, really. And when it's a morning commute, this is a matter of you know, getting from A to B, and we don't want unable tourists getting in our way. So we have a new challenge to teach people how to actually be locals if we want to go down that path. We have good help as an organization from, of course, the way that people actually live through these sustainable goals in Copenhagen, not only by biking, but also by sorting waste. And it's sort of a part of the way that we live. Also, work-life balance is a well-known thing from the Scandinavian countries. So if you look at sustainability in a broader sense, we do a lot of those things. Copenhagen as a city is looking to become the world's first carbon neutral capital. And this has been, you know, a lucky parallel run between our strategy to become a sustainable destination with the hotels and venues and all the providers, but also at the same time the city actually being equally ambitious, so we can work together on that aim. It of course also means something for business, because it's not all philanthropy, not on our part either. I put this up because this is a recent win of a congress coming to Copenhagen. The World Congress of Architects will come to Copenhagen in 2023, and the theme of their convening will be how can architects contribute to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And you could ask, would we have won this without the profile of the city? Maybe we would, but it certainly helped. So it's a way of also reinforcing the sustainable image, that we actually attract tourists and also businesses that want the same thing. But this Congress is not only, good for the image of fitting for the image of the city, it's also a very good business. It's 10,000 people for 5 days, and we count room nights in my business. So it's 50,000 room nights, which will equal a revenue around $22 million. So, and that's just one Congress. So if we get congresses like this, because of what we can provide as a city, then we certainly want to go down that road. Then when it comes to what can we do as an organization, because we all need to do something, we have this global index for the tourist industry that has set up indicators and that we follow. And indicators like this are actually really good as pushing ourselves and pushing the employees towards something that can be achieved all the time, because it's a benchmarking tool. So we can benchmark back and measure against ourselves, and we can measure against other destinations on how we do on different indicators. There's also a Green Key certification that is widely used in the tourism business, that actually was invented in Denmark but is now used in 40 countries. And it's common that hotels aim to get that certification, at least in Denmark, but it's not that common that, for instance, convention bureaus or tourist organizations aim for it. But right now we are actually in the process of getting a Green Key, so that we can also show that we sort of take our own medicine in the organization. And then we have this environmental policy and an employee focused on this. This is something that is actually quite banal and that can be done in most organizations. Just looking at, how many paper cups do we use, or should we just abandon that? In our case, we have installed smart lights, so the lights go off when you leave the room. We have a policy, a very strict printing policy, and we have a policy about taxis, for instance. We don't use taxis unless it's an emergency, but we do have company bikes that people can use during work hours to go to the next meeting, which is also more convenient, I have to say, when it comes to traffic in Copenhagen. So stuff like that, and of course you should always aim to set your whole sky higher the next time, but still it is getting us somewhere, and it's keeping. We also have the cantina policy, so the cantina needs to be green. We are looking at, can we do something about food waste? Can we give something away? Stuff like that, little things that can improve how the organization is environmentally based. Next step for us will be looking at these goals, because these are the UN goals that was decided upon by the entire world last year, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And my belief is that in any organization you can just put them up and look at what goals are interesting to us or relevant to us as an organization. And in our case, we could say, good jobs, economy. Of course, we are part of that big time. We have 11 sustainable cities and communities. That's really important when it comes to the discussion about over-tourism. Responsible consumption, we can always be part of that, etc., etc. Partnerships for the goals, really important point, that this cannot be done alone. We work with the city, but we also work with the citizens, we work with the stakeholders all around it. So we need to be in partnerships to actually move forward. And it could be, you know, a lot of other different associations that we could partner up with on this. So this is the next step for my organization, that we want to look at the Sustainable Development Goals and not only look at them, but also look at how can we maybe have KPIs connected to this. How can we incorporate it in our next strategies, etc. So I didn't really know about the facilitation part, but I have some questions for you, if that's okay. And I was thinking that maybe we could just have this discussion at the tables, and maybe you don't have to address all of them, but maybe just pick one and talk about that. Okay? And I want to be part of it.